Today, it's almost impossible for you to think about jewelry without thinking about diamonds. We love diamonds today, and when you're talking about the height of jewelry, you are talking about diamond. But diamond was not always on that level. Diamond was not always the first thing people think about when you are thinking about jewelry. And how did diamond move from being a mediocre, material when it comes to jewelry to getting to the height of it? It was just because of a marketing and advertising campaign. And now we are going to be talking about that today. In the early 1900s, the bears had almost, colonized the entire diamond market. Diamonds were not particularly a common symbol when it comes to love or marriage. And, the best things when you're thinking about jewelry is connecting it to love and marriage, right? The diamond market was in a sharp decline. It was literally going down, especially because then it was diamond has always been expensive, right? But it was expensive then, and people were not particularly seeing the need to purchase diamond, especially in the United States. And the sales was extremely minimal. Like I said, De Beers had monopolized diamond production as at that time, and they needed to increase the global demand of diamond because they wanted more money, of course. Now, De Beers knew there is something we can do. When you're thinking about things you can do, as at that point, they could not increase the quality of diamond, obviously, because, of course, diamond is still the hardest substance on earth that we know of. It is not connected to materials like adamantium that we see in movies, right? They knew that they could not increase the quality of the product. So what could they do? They could only increase the quality of the marketing, when it comes to actually selling the product. So they went to NW Hire and Son and ad agency as well. I'm still going to talk about the importance of all of these ad agencies. I mean, they did that in 1938, and they told them to come up with a campaign that would, put diamond into the culture, that would make diamond look like an everyday thing, right? They wanted to embed diamond into the culture, and Francis Gerety was a copywriter at that ad agency as at that time, and he started to think about what were the things we could do. And in 1947, imagine they went to them in 1938, they did a number of campaigns together, but a particular campaign stuck, and that campaign only came in 1947. And it was just a line of a diamond is forever. Something that people knew already. Everyone knew that a diamond is forever. Once you get a diamond, the value literally increases. It is the hardest substance on earth. There is a chance that the financial value will always increase, and even the quality of the material itself. It retains the quality. So a diamond is forever. People knew that, but it never came up in a campaign, and that was the difference, right? So the line was coined, a diamond is forever, and this line connected diamonds to eternity, love, and commitment, and that was all they needed. That was all they needed, and then they started an aggressive marketing. They launched campaigns promoting the idea that no marriage proposal was complete without a diamond engagement ring. The number of people that were getting married that still gets married up until today. In fact, you'll be able to tell that it is the number of divorce that are concerned. Of course, it is not everyone that gets married that divorce, right? We're still talking 30, 40% the divorce rate, which is still low compared to the success, right? So they sold the idea that there is absolutely no engagement that is complete if you are not using a diamond engagement ring. And they used women. They made it connected to the being of women. And of course, if something is already connected to the being of women, men like to please women. So when a man wants to propose, he wants the woman to be at her happiest. So he wants to give her something that will make her feel happy, something that she does not see on an everyday, something that has already been connected and became a culture of proposals, right? So they began to push out ads, and then they were featuring movie stars, they were doing magazines, they were doing educational campaigns, targeting young men and also young women, but most especially young men, making young men feel like that proposal is not complete if you are not using a diamond engagement ring. And people, especially these young men, began to save up just because they wanted to get their wives or their spouse a diamond engagement ring because it was at the peak of it. The It just felt like there is absolutely nothing I am going to do at this point that is going to be right if I am not proposing it with a diamond engagement ring. This campaign was pushed out majorly in the United States. And the population of the United States has always been high, right? People connected with it instantly. And the bears had already monopolized the market. They were almost the only ones there selling diamond rings, and they were the originators of that particular campaign. So whenever the proposal is meant to happen, naturally the BS makes another sale. But it does not stop there because they had already coined it into the culture and people started to look at diamond in another way entirely. People started to look at diamond with a different set of eye entirely. And then when it now comes to investing, the way you look at gold, people began to look at diamond that same way. So despite the fact that they pushed that campaign for love and commitment, it went beyond that because an human remains an human. Once you have been able to do something that appeals to a human on a level at a certain point, you can always replicate it. In fact, you don't have to replicate it. The human mind begins to ingrain it in their everyday. And that was how the human mind began to ingrain diamond, not just when it comes to proposal, but when it comes to their lifestyle. People began to see, to wear diamond rings, people began to wear diamond chains. So it does not always have to be a proposal, and that was what it became, right? And when we are talking about sales, the US diamond sales increased by over 55% between 1938 and 1941. Imagine the sales of diamond increasing by over 55% in 3 years in the United States, right? This campaign was a massive success. It drove into the emotions of people and it also increased sales. By the 1980s, 80% of American engagement rings came with diamonds. 80% came with diamonds, which meant that even the 55% increase in sales because the population continued to increase. Now imagine a population that continued to increase, and then even when the population was lesser, they had 55%. When the population grew, it moved to 80%. That means the sales was getting a whole lot higher, right? So the idea around this thing is marketing can shape cultural norms and values. So when there is a certain culture in a certain place around a number of things, marketing can always shape it. Marketing can change the culture and norms of the people when it is looking like this set of people do not particularly like this thing. If you do your marketing right, you can definitely make that change no matter what it is. Sometimes you will need time and money, but it is still a marketing campaign and it is still doable. And the idea around it is emotional branding and storytelling. They bring long lasting effects. Even when or if the campaign you have stopped it, but because you've been able to connect it to people's emotions and branding, you will always be able to get a long standing effect. Diamond still stands as that particular product up till today because of a campaign that happened almost a century ago, right? So you should not just be selling a product or a service. You should be selling the emotions. You should be selling the result. You should be selling the tradition or the identity that is behind that particular product or service. So whatever you do, always ensure that you embed your product into a customer's life story so that when they are talking about themselves, they find themselves including your product into it and including it in a way that it made my life easier. I'll see you on the next one.